Let's move in now to some James Harden trade discussion, the biggest rumor out there around the NBA. Jimmy, what's going on here? Does he want out? Are the Rockets going to trade him? Are the Nets the top contender for him?
There was a report that came out from a Brooklyn guy that was saying, hey, the Nets are on the top of Harden's list. And then Woj backed that up, and when Woj says it, you know it's true. And then just this morning, the Houston Chronicle, a local paper obviously in Houston, reported that Harden has officially requested a trade, and they are looking to move, or he is looking to move on with the Nets still at the top of his list. Look, obviously this would reunite Kevin Durant and James Harden, who played 3 years together in Oklahoma City. And look, the Rockets are still telling people, no, we're not trading James Harden. But Harden, if he says he wants out, he's going to find a way out.
Player-driven league, and James Harden would be one of the bigger players we've seen on the trade block in recent years. The production that he puts up, is it the most efficient? No, not always. But Harden continues to prove he is still one of the best players in the NBA. I think the return that the Houston Rockets would at least expect to get would be significant.
Yeah, and they would have to get draft compensation too, you got to think, because this is a team that, let's say they trade James Harden. Well, guess what? Russell Westbrook's going to be not far behind him. And then
now they're bad.
Yeah, then that team is going young with the new head coach, with Daryl Morey gone, changing of the guard really in Houston. You got to commit to a youth movement if you're Houston and move on from James Harden.
So where will Harden play next season? Let me know what you guys think here in the comments section. I'm going to make this the pinned comment on today's video. So for those of you watching on YouTube on demand, if you get that ad break, scroll on down and get your votes in. Where will Harden play for this upcoming season? Let's take a look then, Jimmy, at some of the potential destinations. The one that has been heavily linked so far, the Brooklyn Nets, which would pair Harden, Durant, and Kyrie Irving together.
Yeah, this one has been the only one that has really had substantial traction behind a James Harden trade. And at the end of the day, you get 3 elite offensive players. No matter how Kevin Durant comes back from that Achilles injury, even if you get 65% Kevin Durant, you're still getting a top 15 player in this league. If he's healthy, top 5 player in this league. And then you pair him with James Harden, the best scorer in the NBA, and then a point guard like Kyrie. Yeah, maybe there's just one ball, but the talent is unmatched.
Now, a potential trade could look a little bit like this. This is kind of the rumblings out there of what it might look like. Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, Taurean Prince all go to Houston. The Nets get James Harden. That's a pretty good offer that the Nets can put together to get Harden.
It's a good offer. I think a draft pick. The Nets do have their first-round draft pick this year. I think that would be included as well, but nothing has actually been reported along those lines. LeVert, Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, those are 3 nice young pieces.
That's a good little young core to start developing.
Yeah, and then along with a couple picks thrown in there, Houston gets at least something back. Obviously, nothing's going to equal up to James Harden, but it's pretty darn close.
So here's a look at the potential Nets lineup with James Harden. The main key here is, of course, Kyrie, Harden, and Durant. The NBA had kind of pivoted away last offseason, going back to, big 2s instead of big 3s.
Right.
This would be a big 3, though.
It would be a big 3, and then they just acquired Bruce Brown as well via trade, who's a guy that I like and is a good defensive player, could easily play a 3-guard lineup with him in there, although he's a little smaller. I mean, DeAndre Jordan is no slouch, but he's not as good as he once was. But, Tom, they could throw you or me out at the center position, and I think this team would still be just fine.
We're
with
not
those
that
3
big,
guys.
though. I think we would lose the rebounding battle.
Oh, we would.
But let's say the Nets are able to acquire James Harden for a deal similar to the one we showed you earlier. Is that enough for Brooklyn to win the title? Get your votes in. Y for yes, N for no. I think they win the East.
Okay.
Is that enough, though, to win the title? What do you think?
I don't think they have any excuse not to. Even if it isn't a perfect fit, even if it's not a great fit offensively with all those guys needing the ball in their hands, you have 2 MVP-level players and Kyrie Irving, one of the top 3-point guards in the league. You have no excuse not to win the title.
Keep your votes coming. Y for yes, N for no. We're going to take a look at some more destinations, but I also want to mention Houston here, Jimmy. There seems to be a problem right now because this is suddenly going from, hey, they were not that far away from being the Western Conference champions, all of that, to now they're on the verge of having to completely blow the whole thing up.
Yeah, I mean, they just hired a new head coach. Poor Steven Silas thought he was getting Russ and James Harden. Now he's going to get stuck with Robert Covington and P.J. Tucker as his best players. So it is a lot of trouble, and there's been a lot of interior arguments going on about contract negotiations. Lots going wrong in Houston. Harden wants out. Westbrook wants out. But where does Harden want to go? That's the next question.
We mentioned the Nets. Here's some other Harden fits. We'll take an in-depth look at each of these teams here. This is your list, Jimmy, so blame hater Jimmy, not me.
Get mad at me.
The 76ers, the Heat, the Knicks, the Celtics, which is actually the one I kind of mentioned, and the Denver Nuggets. So we'll begin with the 76ers, and don't they have some type of connection to Harden in the front office or something?
Yeah, I know I said Brooklyn was the only one that has any really substantial connection, but now Daryl Morey is in that front office with the Philadelphia 76ers, and they might just look to reunite them, player and former GM. And I don't think there's any bad blood between Morey and James Harden, so maybe the tea leaves are on Philadelphia as well. It could make a lot of sense. My only question with Philadelphia is, are they willing to give up Simmons or Embiid? And then is Houston
Am I
going to be
insane
interested?
for thinking Harden and Embiid is a better pairing than Simmons and Embiid?
Oh, it's 100% a better pairing because you have a guy that can actually shoot the basketball and then a dominant big man. So, I mean, you got to think it's probably Simmons over Embiid that's included, but who knows? It's at least an interesting fit.
We'll get back to some more destinations, but there are some NBA face masks on sale, 30% off. The 2-packs, the 3-packs, all the different variety options are available at chatsports.com/NBA mask. Check the comments, check the description. We'll put that link in there for you guys. I like the Knicks ones, by the way, Jimmy. I think the blue and orange mesh pretty well together in the end.
Yeah, the Knicks colorway is probably the best thing they have going for them in that organization.
Oh, you didn't have to be mean
I
about
had
the
to do
Knicks.
it. I'm hater Jimmy. What's new? So, sorry, not sorry.
Let's dive in then to the Miami Heat because Pat Riley's a madman and is always trying to pull stuff off.
I mean, that's really the main reason they're in here. They're a big market. They're always a team that gets players they're not expected to. But also, they have some really good trade chips. Now, I do question whether or not they're willing to give up Giannis space in 2021 to get James Harden. But I think you got to take the risk coming off that finals appearance. The problem is, they've talked about not being willing to offer Bam Adebayo or Tyler Hero in trade talks. But nobody of this caliber has become available via trade either.
I think Tyler Hero is one you're maybe more willing to move on from since Harden and Hero are both guards. I would desperately try to find a way to keep Bam Adebayo. I don't know if you could actually pull that off, though.
I don't think you could either. I think some combo of Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn would be close, along with future first-round picks.
They're
but
so light on picks already.
Yeah, I mean, if Bam Adebayo's not in there, I don't think it gets done. I think Miami is an intriguing fit. I think they will push really hard for something. But at the end of the day, I don't think James Harden ends up in Miami. I think they are also all in on the Giannis train.
I think Jimmy Butler and Harden's a very fun duo, though.
Defense, Jimmy
And then
Butler.
scoring.
Offense, James Harden. Jimmy and Jimmy. James and James. Right
So
there.
earlier we asked you where you think Harden will play. Where do you not want to see James Harden play? Let me know in the comments section. Name a team you don't want Harden on. What are you going with here, Jimmy?
Lakers and Warriors. Just anywhere. Honestly, put any Western Conference team in there. Just keep him, move some talent to the East. They don't have enough.
Okay.
Need to move him to the Eastern Conference. And, I mean, but if he ended up on the Warriors or the Lakers, just in the 2021 season now.
Maybe we'll get a draft day trade involving James Harden, and we will be live for the entirety of the NBA draft on Wednesday. Me and hater Jimmy and Harrison will all be here breaking down every single pick before the major networks put it out there because they're always behind. So if you want to join us for the NBA draft, all you guys have to do is subscribe and hit that big red button today. Let's go now to the New York Knicks as a potential destination for James Harden, Jimmy.
I mean, you couldn't not include the Knicks. This is a team that hasn't had a star player in a while. They need somebody, and they've already shown interest in one Rockets guard. Let's say nothing works out with Westbrook. Maybe they try offering something similar for James Harden. Now, Harden obviously brings back a much more valuable trade package, and I think that would start with a guy like R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, maybe the number 8 pick in the 2020 NBA draft. And then they also have young guys like Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr. and even Kevin Knox.
Have no value.
Right. But
maybe
Kevin
Knox
Knox, Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, and number 8, something along those lines.
Salary
Obviously,
cap filler of all.
right,
of course.
you got to throw in like a Julius Randle to make that work. It at least gets them thinking if they're truly committing to the youth movement, as I think they should, assuming they move on from Harden and or Westbrook.
Now, a team that has continued to acquire assets is the Boston Celtics. I think they could put together a couple different packages that might intrigue Houston.
Yeah, I do too. I think, along with all the draft picks, they have 3 first-round draft picks in this year's draft. They also have all the draft picks in future drafts as well. So they have the ability to do it. They also have, let's say Houston does want to stay competitive for whatever reason. They could offer a Kemba Walker, a Gordon Hayward. and then maybe, just maybe, they offer their second-best player in Jaylen Brown. I'm not 100% sure Boston is ready to give up on the pairing of Brown and Tatum for an older James Harden.
A potential sleeper in this discussion is the Denver Nuggets. Now, the issue here is that you probably got to include Michael Porter Jr. as like the focal point of any potential trade.
You do, and I've seen people kick around Jamal Murray as an offer.
Oh, that defeats the purpose, though.
I think it does, too, because I think Denver would obviously be trying to go for a big three. But I think you could go with a package surrounding around Gary Harris, Will Barton. Bol is on a two-way contract, and then Michael Porter Jr. along with future picks. It could get it done.
Team.
Yeah, it's a fun 2K team.
They're terrible defensively.
I don't think Houston wants to trade him to a Western Conference team either, so I just don't think this happens. But I think Denver has the pieces to make a major blockbuster trade like this.
They've, of course, been linked so often to Bradley Beal. Now it's a different guard, maybe a little bit more expensive. So who ends up getting traded first among the big two over in Houston? Type W for Russell Westbrook. Type H for James Harden. Jimmy, what's your prediction here, my friend?
I'm typing my W for Russell Westbrook. I think something will materialize a little quicker, and the trade package won't be as substantial for Westbrook, making it a little easier to get a deal done there. But at the end of the day, I don't think either of them are in Houston when the 2020-2021 NBA season starts in December.
We'll give some shout-outs here as these come in. I see a W from Senor Juan, a W, a lot of W's here, Jimmy. I'm walking. Gemmo, it's coming in so fast I have to pause it. I'm sorry, guys. Eric, Finesse Finn, Duke Talks, not many H's, so I think maybe that makes some more sense. Keep your votes coming here. W for Westbrook, H for Harden.